This is Mac OS Ken.
Nikkei likes iPhone this year. Citi thinks Apple is the best AI play. And Apple TV Plus, now with more Napoleon. It is Friday, the 30th of August, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management, helping businesses like yours secure every sign-in for every app on every device. Learn more at onepassword.com/product/XAM. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. What happened to Apple shares on Thursday? They went up. Why? As always, there's likely more than one reason, though the primary driver seems to have been a story from Nikkei, highlighted by Apple 3.0. That actually repeated numbers we've heard from Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives, calling for somewhere between 88 million and 90 million iPhone 16 units by year's end. In fairness to Mr. Ives, he's actually said that Apple could be looking to make more than 90 million, but that is the number around which he centers expectations. What's interesting is both Apple 3.0's Philip Elmer-DeWitt and Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani gave the Nikkei numbers something like the side eye. That's because Nikkei tends to roll in with negativity where iPhone is concerned. Another piece from Apple 3.0 had Daryanani saying, "These stories have not necessarily been reliable indicators of iPhone revenue growth in the past, but it is notable to see the Nikkei pointing to growth." Still, the Nikkei piece struck a relatively cautious overall tone, according to Daryanani, with the report quoting one supplier who highlights concerns around China. Be that as it may, the analyst says his team's sense is mix continues to shift more toward the Pro Max, which could help drive ASPs higher and be a secular tailwind. Secular tailwind is my Striper cover band. Daryanani has an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $250. Nikkei and Evercore weren't the only financial folk opining on Apple this week. MarketWatch had Citi analyst Atif Malik saying people who want to play AI as an investment should be buying Apple over companies like Nvidia and Arista Networks. It's kind of roundabout, though. He likes Apple as an AI play because, with the exception of iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max owners, anybody who wants Apple Intelligence on their iPhone will have to buy new hardware. According to Malik, Apple's September event is generally all about hardware updates, but we believe the company will put a lot of focus on how the hardware updates for the iPhone 16 family can better support its Apple Intelligence features that are expected to roll out officially later in the fall. Phones doing the generative AI thing won't be an overnight thing. The analyst says it's still early in the adoption cycle in terms of how AI phones can actually help the consumer's daily life. That said, he and his view Apple is in the best position to make it possible, given its leading position in the premium smartphone market and seamless integration of software and hardware. With that, the analyst names Apple his top AI pick. Malik has a buy rating on Apple shares and a price target of $255. More than one analyst and Apple watcher has said a lot of the company's near future rides on how soon it can roll Apple Intelligence outside the US. Cupertino Crew may have taken a small step in that direction this week. According to several reports, including one from 9to5Mac, the third betas of iOS 18.1 and macOS 15.1 no longer require the region on the testing device to be set for the US. The site says it can confirm that it's now possible to try out Apple Intelligence features just by changing Siri's language and the device language to US English without changing the region settings. Yes, US English as a requirement will be a hindrance on many parts of the planet, but it is a visible start towards going global. That said, certain regions remain restricted. Users in the EU and China are still unable to activate Apple Intelligence, according to the report. One thing that might hinder Apple's AI moves, all the stuff online on which AI trains. 9to5Mac cites a Wired report that says a number of the biggest news and social media sites are blocking Apple's automated systems for scraping their sites for training Apple Intelligence. Confirmed to sport the big no sign are such sites as The Atlantic, Wired parent Condé Nast, Craigslist, Facebook, The Financial Times, Instagram, The New York Times, Tumblr, the USA Today Network, and Vox Media. Is this a stand on principle? It could be, though the piece figures it's at least as likely that they're angling for more of Apple's money than the company has offered so far. US smartphone sales were up in July, no thanks to iPhone. That is the latest from Counterpoint Research. In a press release Thursday, the market tracker said that US smartphone sell-through increased 5% year-on-year in July, while sales of iPhone were down 4% by the firm's reckoning. And yet the iPhones Apple did sell were high value and in demand. Counterpoint Research Director Jeff Fieldhack was quoted in the release saying, although overall iPhone sell-through was down, unit sales of the high-value, high-margin iPhone 15 Pro were up in double digits. The changing mix favoring Pro models has been an ongoing theme and something we are focusing on as we head into September announcements and earnings season. As for what drove growth in the U.S., Counterpoint says it was strength in prepaid services. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, 1Password Extended Access Management. Anywhere you find people, you're going to find shortcuts. Sometimes it's because they're in a hurry, sometimes it's to get around an impediment, sometimes they're just being lazy. From parks to processes, if there is a quicker or easier way to get to the end, people are going to take it. Not a big deal when you're walking, but when you're working, well, that's different. You've set up a whole system with an eye on productivity and security. Without realizing it, your employees' need for speed could put that security at risk. 1Password Extended Access Management can help mitigate that risk. It puts unmanaged devices, unknown applications, and rogue identities under your control, making sure every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional identity and access management and mobile device management miss. It is security for the way people work today. It's available now to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra and in beta for Google Workspace customers. Check it out at onepassword.com/product/XAM. That's onepassword.com/product/XAM. You can use AI for deepfake generation if you want to, but not with Apple's blessing. Apple Insider says the Cupertino company has blocked some developers from using sign-in with Apple after a report from Wired discovered popular sign-in tools have been used by websites providing harmful AI image undressing services. Apple is the headline, of course, though theirs was not the only sign-in service being used. The report says of 16 sites seen by Wired, sign-in with Apple was used on 6, Google's sign-in API was used on all 16, Discord's on 13, and Patreon and Line used on 2. Since then, Apple and Discord have revoked sign-in API access to the developers of those sites. Google said it would do the same in cases where its terms were violated, while the piece says Patreon claims it prohibits accounts from allowing explicit imagery to be produced. If you're cool spending your weekend in front of what we used to affectionately call the tube, there are 2 things to check out on Apple TV+. First, the let's say, reality series, K-Pop Idols has hit the stream. Describing the show, Apple TV Plus says glitz meets grit in this backstage pass to artists from around the world. Through trials and triumphs, Jessie, Gravity, and Black Swan give everything they've got to an art form that demands nothing less than perfection. That should be up now on Apple TV Plus. And finally today, if you thought the problem with Ridley Scott's film Napoleon was that there wasn't enough of it, get ready to be happy. Apple TV Plus issued a press release Thursday announcing the streaming release of Napoleon, the director's cut. It may not be everything the director had hoped for. Last fall, before the film even made it to theaters, Ridley Scott said he had a version cut that ran 4 hours and 10 minutes, considerably longer than the 2-hour 38-minute theatrical release. What he's ended up with clocks in at 3 hours 24, featuring 48 minutes of new, never-before-seen footage from the Academy Award-nominated historical action epic. According to the press release, the director's cut delves deeper into Josephine's origin story and features more extravagant costumes, new larger-than-life sets, and the previously unreleased Battle of Morongo scene. The audience is also given more details about Napoleon's demise, from his attempted assassination to his failed invasion of Russia. Napoleon, the director's cut, is streaming now on Apple TV+. Hey, Apple TV Plus isn't the only one with more shows for you to check out. This week on the Mac Observer Show, Rick Smolan made his name in photography. Well, that's not how he spends his days these days. He's got thoughts on image generation through AI. He sat with me for this week's show, talking 30-plus years of Photoshop, publishing, making movies out of pictures, and what he is up to now. Catch Rick Smolan on the Mac Observer Show. You can watch that at youtube.com/MacObserver or grab it and listen wherever you get podcasts. And on the checklist, brought to you by SecureMac, stories on a phishing test that freaked people out, spying and hacking in unsuspecting ways, and when it comes to AI, maybe it's time to call in the philosophers. We'll hit all of that on checklist number 390. Find that at securemac.com/checklist or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by 1Password Extended Access Management. Learn more at onepassword.com/product/XAM. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.